evening, everyone. So, when people hear robotics, they generally think of coding and designing well-thought-through robot designs. Think of robots moving through a playing field, picking up game pieces, scoring points. But that's not what I think about. I think about the people. Because after becoming a captain of my team, I realized something I didn't expect. Robotics isn't just about building robots. It's about building an environment for the whole team. Whether you realize it or not, that environment decides who succeeds and who gets left behind. We talk a lot about accessibility, like it's something physical, ramps, tools, resources. Robotics, however, accessibility is not something physical, it's opportunity. Who gets the chance to try something new? Who gets the chance to work on something they haven't before? Who gets trusted to be a leader on part of the robot project? And as a leader, I had way more control over that than decisions that didn't feel important at the time. Who I trusted with opportunities, who I thought would do the best at something. But those small decisions added up, and they created a pattern. And that pattern decided who would succeed and who got left behind. A few months ago, right before our fourth competition, I was completely stressed. We were all rushing, working on the robot, non-stop, long hours. But, then I realized, while we were working on the robot, I haven't seen the business team at any practices. And that's when I started making assumptions. I assumed that they weren't working as hard. I assumed they didn't care. I assumed that we were going to show up unprepared because we didn't have a portfolio or a presentation. But that night, not only did they show up, they came and they built the presentation and finalized it that night. And that made me realize something. As a leader, you shouldn't make assumptions because that reshaped how I saw part of my own team. And I hadn't seen work happening, so I just assumed it wasn't going to happen ever. And the more I thought about it, because that night just remained in my head, the more I thought about it, the more I considered how do those assumptions turn into decisions. I didn't see any decisions I made as just being biased or trying to pick other people over others. I just assumed I was making the most logical decision. Choosing the most experienced person, choosing the safest option, choosing someone I thought I knew I could count on you. But that just ends up costing people opportunities because those are shortcuts. Shortcuts stop people from getting opportunities to try new things, learning how to become leaders themselves in robotics. So going back to that same fourth competition, I realized my stress wasn't just about if we'd have the presentation existing yet. It was about if one of our team members would even be ready for the presentation. My assumption wasn't based on anything she'd actually done. It was just because, I haven't seen her show up. I haven't seen her work on the robot. She must be less invested in it. She must not care. But the next morning, when the time came around that we had to present, not only did she present well, she exceeded every expectation that I had. Her presentation was clear, confident, impactful, and that forced me to rethink how I saw part of my own team. Because my assumptions, I just was like, wow, she's not going to do anything. And that forced me to confront something uncomfortable. The limit was never anyone's ability, it was my assumption of a lack of ability. And when you're in a leadership position, your assumptions don't just stay in your head, they always end up turning into decisions. And the more I realized that, the more I started trying to change. But then I realized it's really hard to fix something that you don't notice. Because I would try to not do anything. But then I would think about it more and more. There's another member of our team. He's incredibly smart. One of the hardest workers I know. Known him since middle school. He's a great guy. But he would never really be working on the robot. He'd be standing kind of on the sidelines, just watching us work. And that made me think. The people who get the most opportunities are the people who speak up. And that ends up making the people who don't speak up, people like him who are quiet, ends up costing them leadership or costing them just opportunities to work on the robot. It wasn't like we wanted to exclude him, because we love everyone on the team. We want everyone to work. But I just let that become a normal thing, regularly just excluding him, working without him. Because in a high-pressure environment like robotics, you're just focused on how well you can make the robot work. Coding, designing, making it absolutely perfect, but that leaves people behind. So now I try to create space for, the voices aren't as loud. Try to give more people opportunities, take more risks on people. Because that gives more people opportunities to actually do what they want to do. And as I started thinking about all my assumptions and how I thought things would go because of my assumptions, my idea of what leadership really is began to change. I stopped thinking of it as being in charge and started thinking of it more as being aware of people, aware of patterns, aware of things that don't get said. And the more I paid attention to that, the more I realized the biggest impact I have is not on the robot, it's on the people around me. Because whether we realize it or not, outside of robotics too, no matter what we're doing, we're building an environment around us. And that's when I learned this, that the most important thing we build isn't the robots. The most important thing we build is each other.